Hi, cat. You'll deaden the sound also.
Kitty, kitty, kitty.
Meow. 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 Here's my butthole. Meow. Meow.
What's up, guys? How's it going? Welcome to the Dorks podcast, episode 3. Tasty Snackies here with my host, McB. How's it going?
What's happening, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you. So for this episode, we're actually in person. Normally, we record from two separate places. We live on two ends of the same state, so we record over the internet, but this time we're in person, and I get to see my host's beautiful face and have a kitten run through our studio setup here.
It's a wild world here at the recording studio, man.
It is. So, Kaladesh. The entire set is spoiled, all cards, and I gotta be honest, I think this is the first standard legal set that I've fallen in love with since Innistrad. I want to say probably the last time I was this excited for a standard set was Return to Ravnica, but like in terms of like world building, Kaladesh is just a home run. They knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, dude, it's a seriously like rich environment. All the machinery, like Mirrodin meets Arabian Nights. It's just really neat.
Yeah, it's just the attention to detail of just like even the tiniest little things like in flavor text with world building. They've been really good at that lately, like in terms of like telling a story with their cards. And okay, I'm gonna have to pause that. All right, sorry about that, folks. With the magic of editing, we'll go ahead and get rid of all the cats running around from the place. So now we'll have a crystal clear podcast, if I can talk correctly. All right, so Kaladesh is an amazing set. I love everything about it. You love everything about it. So let's go on ahead and get into some cards that caught our attention. So the first card that we're going to be talking about is called Insidious Will. It's 2 in blue for an instant. Choose one. Counter target spell. You may choose new targets for target spell, or copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy.
It's so many different things. I love it.
It is. A card like this, obviously because it's a blue modal spell that costs 4, the first thing that I think of is Cryptic Command, but
Yep.
But obviously this isn't because you're choosing 1 instead of 2 and there's 3 modes instead of 4, but I don't know.
It's a card that's versatile. The only thing it doesn't do, like Cryptic Command interacts with lots of creatures or bounces a single thing. Mm-hmm. This is a little more limited, but still it's like the flavor of this card is awesome because for old players, you don't this is 3 things that you wouldn't see together. Maybe 2 of them, like copy and change the target for something, like a wild ricochet. That's awesome. But this also has just plain old stop a spell right then and there. That's sweet. But I'm looking at it from old Magic player standpoint.
Yeah, because these effects, they used to be red specific effects, right? With like redirect and fork and stuff, right?
Blue had some in the beginning, but red had more like random redirection, or it had just, it seemed a little more limited. The best thing going was like fork for red. It's about as good as you ever saw. But this is cool. I'm glad that this card is printed, and I hope that it sees some play maybe in like sideboards and stuff against good standard spells that arise or anything like that.
Yeah, something like this I could definitely see in like a classic Drago style deck, just because it does, 3 different things. Instead of being just a 4-mana counterspell, it's a 4-mana, obviously do 2 other things on top of it. And I think that combined just all together in one package is more than enough reason for at least a couple sideboard slots. Now, in EDH, is this something that you would consider playing?
Yeah, it's borderline. It's not Cryptic Command. So Cryptic Command is pretty damn good. I think if you're playing Commander, that's an include for blue. So, just underneath Cryptic Command.
Yeah, I would say this is definitely like a poor man's Cryptic Command.
Yeah, I agree.
If you can't afford to pay the $25, which is understandable, this card might be right up your alley.
Yeah, I think that's fine for a commander card or something like that for a beginner, and those cards definitely need to exist. So good on them.
Yeah. So the next card that we have in line is Torrential Gear Hulk. So this card already has the nickname Fatcaster Mage because, well, it's a large version of Snapcaster Mage. Snapcaster Mage is 1 in a blue for a 2/1 with flash. When it enters the battlefield, target instant or sorcery in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. And so what Torrential Gear Hulk is it's 4 in double blue, so it's triple the mana cost for a 5/6 with flash. And whenever Torrential Gear Hulk enters the battlefield, you may cast target instant from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that card would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. So, yeah, obviously this is a bigger, beefier Snapcaster Mage. It doesn't grab sorceries, which it does obviously dampen the card's playability a bit, but I don't think too much because this card is still, I feel, is slightly underrated right now. I feel like this card is an efficient finisher in control decks because it does what you want to do. You can flashback like a Wrath effect, like Fumigate, which we'll talk about later, and then it leaves you with a 5/6 body on top of it, and a 5/6 is no joke no matter what format you're playing.
Yeah, plus you can get advantage out of just the flash, surprising somebody, catching an unsuspecting blocker.
Oh yeah, especially if like you don't even need an instant or sorcery in the graveyard. You just, if they feel frisky and want to attack with their Ishkana right into your open field, you just slam a Gear Hulk. Now, I don't know if that'd be a good idea. Like, if I saw a blue player that had 6 mana untapped, I don't know if I...
Yeah, you're walking into it if you're doing that. I think that's good. That's good for the format, You have 6 untapped blue mana. You have spell off of this guy and or just good blocks.
You could have an Insidious Will in your hand.
Good point.
All right, so for our next card here, we got a red one. We have Fateful Showdown, which is 2 in double red for an instant.
Something you can flash back with the giant Gear Hulk guy.
It is. And so Fateful Showdown deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of cards in your hand. Discard all cards in your hand, then draw that many cards. Okay, so essentially it's a one-sided Wheel of Fortune for an additional mana that also domes a creature or player equal to the number of cards in your hand, obviously. But
it's creature or player?
It's creature or player.
Jeez.
So, yeah, the first time I read this, I thought it was creature, and I was a bit disappointed, but then I realized that you could just be holding a full grip of 7 and then dome your opponent for 7 and get a whole new hand. Or
6.
Or 6,
If this is your 7th card, unless that's your 8th card, and you're just like, unload,
you're just
new hand.
You're just holding on to it, or you have, like, no lands. You have, like, 2 lands on play, and you just keep drawing, and then you get to, like, your 4th lane, and you're like, oh, I might as well Fateful Showdown and hit him for 7. And
Okay. With that said, this is how you use this card.
Uh-huh.
You, obviously not in Commander, but you find a way to get everything back in your hand after a game and just cast that, done. Like, lands, get all that back. You got 10, 12 cards in your hand, dome them out for death.
Mm-hmm. Cast, what is it?
Upheaval.
Yeah, upheaval, put everything in, or everything, like, in your graveyard back into your hand.
Yeah.
Or like, Blue Suns for, like, 1,000,000, and then cast this card, and then shoot all of your opponents down at once and just kill them. Be a fantastic card. But I think this card is also playable outside of EDH. I feel like just the fact that it deals damage to creatures and players is enough to make it standard playable. Even if you only get to draw 2 or 3 cards, I feel like that's more than enough for what you're getting out of this, because it is a burn spell on top of card draw. So I really like it. I'm also a big fan of the flavor text, which is, tonight at the Grand Exhibition, witness head judge Tezzeret face off against the infamous renegade Pia Nalar. So Pia Nalar is Chandra's mom.
He fights Chandra's mom? There's no way she wins, right? That's brutal.
Yeah, Tezzeret's fighting the mom.
Tezzeret's a son of a bitch.
He's working with Nicol Bolas last time we saw him, so, since we're getting Nicol Bolas and Amonkhet, I have a feeling this is all going to tie in, so I think it's going to be sweet. Now, it's a bit disappointing we didn't get Tezzeret in the set. He's probably more likely going to be an Aether Revolt. If I had to take a guess, I'd say that Tezzeret's probably going to die. That'd be my guess.
I would think he would be an agent to cause the revolt.
You think? Like to be a part of the revolt, or like as the reason why it happened?
To like sow discord with Kaladesh and then have Bolus come in and just invade when they're warring against themselves, and then swoop in and take over.
And then that
totalitarian government done.
And then that leads them,
dragon government.
that leads them going to Amonkhet to go fight Bolus.
All the 5 planeswalkers would probably have to face off against him for the fate of Kaladesh. I may just be spoiling the crap out of like 3 sets from now, but
the Avengers essentially of Magic, which
yes.
I mean, let's be honest, that's what Wizards is going for. They're going for the whole, well, the Avengers is the biggest movie in the world ever, and it made all the money ever, so let's make our planeswalkers like the Avengers, and they travel from plane to plane fighting Emrakul and Eldrazi and more Eldrazi and more Eldrazi and more Eldrazi until you're sick of it, and now we are where we are.
Casting one-sided Wheel of Fortunes that do damage to creatures or players that might make it into Standard.
It's fantastic. I love it. But, yeah, I'm excited about Tezzeret. If you had to take a guess as to, like, what color Tezzeret would be, what would you guess? Because he's already been mono-blue, and he's been blue-black.
Grixis? Like Bolas?
I could see that. I could also see, like, Esper, maybe. Or mono-black.
Mono-black?
I could see a mono-black Tezzeret.
Ooh, that would be awesome.
Because we lost Sorin in one of the stories. Nahiri sealed Sorin in stone, and he was trapped there watching Emrakul destroy Innistrad. And that we've heard the last of him. So maybe Tezzeret is supposed to act as a replacement for the Black Planeswalker. Now, they did that with Ob-Nixilis, like he's...
And Liliana now.
And Liliana, but not as like a member of the Gatewatch, but like as a villain, like a constant antagonist. Mm-hmm. Like Nicol Bolas too. I don't know. Maybe that's why... I feel like that's why they also might be killing off Tezzeret, because there's just too many villains all at once, and it's like, well, we have Emrakul trapped in the moon, and we have Nicol Bolas who's running things over at Amonkhet, and we have Ob-Nixilis who does his Ob-Nixilis thing, and the Phyrexians over in Phyrexia.
Dude, the Eldrazi can stay gone for all I care. Like, they've had their time easily within the last, 10 years or 8 years or whatever. Over it. Over it, Eldrazi. You guys are done for a while.
The first time we saw them, it completely destroyed Standard in every format they touched. And then the second time they came around, we just saw too much of them at once. And it was like, really? 2 blocks worth of Eldrazi? But let's go ahead and move on from that card and the Eldrazi to Harsh Scrutiny, which is a single black sorcery. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a creature card from it. That player discards that card. Scry 1.
So the question for this card is, will this format be one of creatures in every single deck? Will there be like enough decks that this hits every time with, or 85% of the time, or 80% of the time with?
Yes, mostly because one of the main dominant decks in Standard right now is Bant Company, and with rotation, pretty much only Company is leaving, and there's a few other creatures that are leaving too, like Nissa, Vastwood Seer, and Jace. But all the other good creatures that were in that deck, like Sylvan Advocate, Spell Queller, Lamphold Pacifist, Duskwatch Recruiter, those are all staying in Standard still. And there's a bunch of other creatures in Standard that are like big threats still. Like you have Emrakul, you have Ishkana, you have Elder Deep Fiend, you have Thought Not Seer, Reality Smasher, just a bunch of good, awesome targets that you want to be taking with Harsh Scrutiny.
So the real question then is the least populated deck in the format with creatures. Mm-hmm. How many do you think it has in it?
That's really hard to tell because we're about to enter a new format. But if I were to take
right now for this format,
if I were to take a guess, and in this current format, if we had Harsh Scrutiny, this card would be a bad matchup against, I don't know, something like the Green-Black Seasons Past control deck, which doesn't really play that many creatures, which I think might be coming back around once rotation happens, because we're losing Dark Petition, but we're gaining back another tutor in the form of Diabolic Tutor. Now, while it doesn't have the Dark Ritual effect, you can still get the chain going with Seasons Past and Diabolic Tutor.
Ooh, gotcha.
Yeah, so we still have that. That could very well be a control deck that you'll see around, and more than likely they're going to be playing Harsh Scrutiny in there. So, yeah, those are the type of decks where a card like this is bad against. Obviously, like any Super Friends list that doesn't rely on creatures, kind of like the Black-White control list that won the Pro Tour, Lucas Blohan's Black-White. Or no, his was the creatures. I'm thinking of Travis Wu's Black-White Planeswalkers deck that took second place at GP Portland. That's a deck that's obviously really good against a card like this. But yeah, in the future for Standard, this card is going to be really good. There's too many good creatures in Standard for people not to be playing them, and a card like this certainly takes advantage of the situation.
Yeah, and as this new group of cards comes in, clearly there's a lot of creature interaction with all the guys that give energy and the stuff that people are going to want to try out. And it looks like the vast majority of it is like cool artifacts / vehicles and stuff, creatures that produce energy, things of that nature. That's this card. Harsh Scrutiny is going to snag a lot of those, and I'm sure that people will be playing that for the first little while, trying to get a deck with a lot of creatures in it. So that will make this card viable, if nothing else. So a tool for Black to use to guard against all those like efficient beatdown / energy decks that may be out there.
Oh yeah, unconditional removal is always going to be fantastic.
Turn 1, get your guy.
Right.
Keep getting your guys for the rest of the game.
Right.
All right, so the next one is Nature's Way. It's a sorcery. Target creature you control gains vigilance and trample until the end of the turn. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature you do not control. Pretty good. 1 green, 1 colorless. Big effect. Dominant in combat. Pretty awesome, but not like a trick at all. It's like armor up your guy and go in.
Yeah, it feels much more like a green removal spell because it's a one-sided fight, so you just hit something really hard. If it's not dead, they're certainly probably not going to block with it afterwards, or they are and it's just going to get completely run over because your creature still gains vigilance and trample, so that's more than enough compensation in case you don't kill the creature. At least you get a vigilance trample guy to get some damage over, because let's say in an ideal situation you play something like Voltaic Brawler, which is the red and a green for a 3/2, add an energy counter, gets a +1/+1, so it's a 4/3. So you remove the energy counter, it's a 4/3. You cast Nature's Way, shoot a creature down for 4, and let's say it was Torrential Gear Hulk, for example, and then you attack and they block with the Gear Hulk that only has 2 toughness essentially because it's already had 4 damage marked on it. Then you kill the Gear Hulk and they still take 2 damage on top of it.
And you could still possibly trample over whatever you don't kill.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so
this feels like it could be a definite tool for that deck. In lieu of because there doesn't seem to be that much really efficient burn in this set.
I mean, there's Harnessed Lightning, which is the one that works with energy counters.
Yeah, but it's
I mean, but it only burns creatures.
And it's 3 damage.
Yeah,
or as many energy as you put into it.
Right. It's 1 in a red, and it gives you 3 energy counters, and then you can sink X counters into it to deal damage. I think that's how it reads. But yeah, I feel like a card like this, obviously you're going to want to be playing it in something like Limited, but this has Standard implications, in my opinion, especially if you're on a budget and you can't afford super flashy mana bases. If you're going like a mono green route, this is kind of like a perfect card because you're going to be playing big beefy creatures anyways that are up above the curve, so being able to play something that'll help clear the path for you is worth consideration, at least in the sideboard. If not the main.
Yeah, because if you're a beatdown deck, don't you want this against the other beatdown decks? Kind of like a Dromoka's Command of sorts.
Yeah, this
a replacement for that sort of card.
Yeah, this feels very close to Dromoka's Command. Now, obviously, it doesn't give the +1/+1 counter, but yeah, and it's a one-sided fight, so they're not hitting back your creature. So if you're playing against a small beatdown deck, you cast Nature's Way, have your creature kill off another smaller creature, then attack, and they'll probably have to block with another small creature, and ideally they'll have nothing left, and you still have your beefy dude, and who knows, you might have another Nature's Way in hand in case they play another blocker. And that's another thing I like is if they keep playing little blockers, now you have this card here, which gets rid of those chump blockers and gets you in for those final points of damage that you need.
Yeah, good old Trample. Trample is a valuable asset in the world of Beatdown. All right, next one up, Ceremonious Rejection. Instant, just 1 mana, counter target colorless spell. Coming off of Eldrazi, I mean, that's a lot of targets.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of obvious Eldrazi targets, but there was also a lot of Devoid creatures from the whole Battle for Zendikar making Devoid, where a lot of cards were technically colorless. This hits all of them. This hits all of the vehicles that are coming in Kaladesh, all the artifacts that are coming in Kaladesh. So obviously this is going to be something that you want to be playing in draft. But this is... The more and more I look at deck lists embracing cards like Reality Smasher and Thought Knot Seers and like Wretched Griff and Elder Deep Fiend and It of the Horde Swarm and Distended Mindbender, all these good colorless creatures, this card seems more and more justified to be in the main board. Like as a 1 or 2 of and bring 2 more in the sideboard for the same reasons why Dispel was in the main board against Collected Company, because Collected Company was everywhere and it was better to be prepared for it than to have to deal with it game 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And that's the same feeling I get with this card. It's something that you want in the main board to fight like Emrakul's and just like Elder Deep Fiends and just stuff that you can't handle. Now, like obviously they still get the cast triggers off those spells, but having a 1 mana way to deal with a 13/13 Flying Trampler, amongst other things, is good enough for me.
I think sideboard worthy. I'll bet there will be some techie deck that like main boards a couple of these and does stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you like use the Hulk guy, if, like this is a card in your deck and you flash it back with Hulk and you get their spell and you get the guy in play at the end of and not on your turn. Man, what a blowout that is.
Yeah, you just use Ceremonious Rejection early in the game, nail an early colorless spell, and wait until they cast Emrakul, and then you just flash in your Hulk, and then...
I'm going to go Team Blue Hulk. Go Team Blue Hulk.
You can take my turn, but I have a 5/6 on the board, so...
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't have a 13/13 anymore, so, I mean...
Some cases you want to be reactive and awesome and then get people. That's the thing that you do in Standard.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes Standard fun.
When everyone's proactive, man, you got to be reactive sometimes.
Ooh, this guy's rad.
So we got Wild Wanderer next. Wild Wanderer is 3 and a green for a 3/2 Elf Druid. When Wild Wanderer enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So we're essentially trading Explosive Vegetation for this. Same cost, but instead of getting that second land, you're getting a 3/2 body.
That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
That's an impressive card, man. I this is like a card that I would love to play with. As from back in the day, like people would play Yavimaya Granger and Yavimaya Dryad and Wood Elves and crap like that would come in and have this same effect, but not with this beefy a body attached to it, or it would have Echo attached to it or something. So, I mean, seeing 3 power on a guy, I mean, it feels a little bit like a Solemn Simulacrum.
Mm-hmm.
If you squint real hard and look at the power as maybe an extra card, but I like this guy. I think he's good. I hope he's good because this is something. This is something that I want to cast in Standard at some point. This is the kind of card I like to play with.
Yeah, this card is awesome. I've been looking forward to the spoilers as each day comes out because I've been working on a blue-green ramp list. And
there you go.
The blue-green ramp list, however, wants to focus on instants and sorceries because I play Rise from the Tides, which is a conditional win con that cares about instants and sorceries. Now, while this isn't an instant or sorcery, it's still a 3/2 body, and I feel like that's more than enough reason to be playing that. And, I mean, ramp is ramp. At this point, we're going to take what we can get because this is one of the few, if not the only option that I can think of off the top of my head that's a green card that lets you tutor for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Now we have other cards where they'll search for the land and just put it into your hand.
Whack. That's whack. I don't want that. I want it in play. I want Solemn Simulacrum.
Right? I want my value. I want to cast all my 6-drops on turn 4.
Yeah. I want to... That's exactly what I want. Get out of my brain.
So yeah, I really love this card. I also really like how it's a common because you mentioned Solemn Simulacrum earlier. Same converted mana cost. Well, not exactly. It's 4 colorless for a 2/2. Enters the battlefield. You can get a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle your library. And then when it dies, you get to draw a card. So this card converted mana cost is the same, but it's just a little bit bigger, but you don't get the draw card clause. Yet this card is a common and Solemn Simulacrum is a rare. Now I understand that drawing a card is obviously infinitely way better than getting a 3/2 as opposed to a 2/2, but I feel like this card like speaks in terms of power creep growing. Because if a card like this is a common and Solemn Simulacrum is a rare, I feel like if that card is a rare, this card should at least be an uncommon.
Uncommon, totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if this card got pushed back from uncommon into common.
Yeah.
Like if someone told me that would not surprise me because it's good enough to, I think, warrant that sort of label.
Yeah, and if not, if this is the direction that Wizards is going with their commons and how they're changing the stats on cards, because it seems like over time they've been moving away from spells and just putting spells on creatures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this is what we have. We essentially have a Grizzly Bears with a Rampant Growth stapled onto it, which is fine. But yeah, and especially since it's at a common level like this, it makes me wonder what kind of spells we're going to be getting in the future.
Hulks, dude. A future filled with Hulks. With giant mechanized creatures.
Right.
That's what it is.
No one will ever cast non-creature spells. The only non-creature spells that ever get cast are going to be enchantments and artifacts, and it's just going to be all creatures all the time and planeswalkers.
That's the future. We're talking about the future right now, Tasty.
So we're going to go ahead and move on to Aether Squall Agent, which is 5 and double blue for a Leviathan 6/6.
That flies.
It flies, of course, because why else wouldn't a Leviathan fly in the magical world of Kaladesh?
Yeah, it's flying through the ether and eating it up.
It's so awesome. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you get 3 energy counters. Pay 8 energy counters. Return all other creatures to their owner's hands. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. So I'm really glad that it said that last line of text is there. Activate only anytime you could cast a sorcery. Now, while that does mess with the playability of this card and you can't activate it at instant speed, if it wasn't at a sorcery speed, I feel like this could have been like another version of Overloaded Cyclonic Rift.
Certainly.
Now, obviously, it doesn't have flash, and it still needs to be on the field in order for you to take advantage of its effect. Yeah, I feel like while this card isn't too overpowered, it's still a really sweet, fun-looking card. It's something that I'm really glad Wizards made, and that something like this exists, because energy counters as a whole is just a really cool mechanic in terms of like being an extra resource. And having a card like this where it's such a good payoff to stay out to save your energy counters, you get this effect where you just effectively what's the card I'm thinking of? Evacuation?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, just evacuate everything. Just
except him.
Yeah, except him.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, all other creatures. So you get a 6/6 that they have to deal with. It's just fantastic. It reminds me of Crush of Tentacles. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah, reminds me of Crush of Tentacles.
Yeah, this guy seems awesome, man. I hope that we get to play with him in Standard, but you never know. It may be just their giant version of the creature that maybe sees some Commander play, but I don't know. This guy's hard to judge. I want to like him a lot because of just all the flavor and the energy, and his effect is sweet. And he's a 6/6 flyer. That is also a bonus, but I can see him coming into play and then getting immediately removed on 7 mana, and you spend a lot to not have him do anything right away. Mm-hmm. But I want to like him real bad, like real bad. The inner what is it, Timmy?
I think Johnny is the combo player, and yeah, Timmy is the big dude smashing.
It certainly isn't the spike position, but
No.
the inner Timmy in me definitely wants to play this card. Look at how many energy symbols it has on it. That's like 11 different energy symbols.
That is an issue I had with this set. Like, if I had one thing to complain about the set, it would be how they handled
Emojis?
magic
emojis?
The formatting for the energy counters, because why doesn't it say pay 8 and then energy counter instead of pay literal 8 energy counters?
Because that's how they do it now. They want to represent it like emojis. Like, Bae, I so love you. Heart, 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 heart. That's how they want it to be now.
It just, I felt like, I don't know, they're too clustered together. Like, you have to focus and look at it for a second. Like, if it's the first time you're seeing it and you don't know off the top of your head, oh, I have to pay 8 energy counters into this. You have to look at it and count into it. And I know I'm grasping at straws complaining about counting in the game of Magic, but it feels like if they would have formatted it differently, they could have at least had more room on the cards for like flavor text or something, or to the point where there's not 5 or not 8, 9, 10, 11 black dots sitting in the middle of the card. It feels like I'm kind of looking at a baby's toy, to be honest, and that's a really harsh judgment.
Stop your baby shaming, Nick.
But
baby shaming microaggressions right there.
Hashtag no baby shaming.
Yeah, true.
All right, so for this next card we have Fumigate. Fumigate is 3 and double white for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures. You gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way.
You ever had your house fumigated?
Mm-mm.
It sucks. You just got to not be there for a while. Just like your creatures got to not be there on the battlefield anymore.
Did you happen to gain a bunch of life because of it?
Well, you do. Your living conditions just get better. No bugs. Like, oh, good, I'm not being like walked on by spiders at night anymore.
Or gremlins, as it's shown in the art.
Or dragons or griffins or something.
Those are the Thopters up top, and they're fumigating the gremlins on the bottom.
Yeah, Thopters can get out of here too. I mean, it's good that this set has a wrath. It's got some upside to it. Gives you a little bit of life back. That's rad.
Mm-hmm.
And Lord knows that every format should probably have some sort of check and balance from white to have to sweep the board, or some sort of way of getting rid of lots of creatures.
Yeah.
Something efficient, and this fills the role of, what was it, like cease aggressions or something?
Well, there was End Hostilities.
That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the one.
End Hostilities was the same card, except it was remove or destroy all creatures and then destroy all permanents attached to those creatures. And that was in response to the enchantment creatures from Theros block. I can't remember what they're called. Bestow. That's what it is. The Bestow enchantments, because whenever the enchanted creature would die, you would get the bestowed creature on the battlefield. And so yeah, that card would take care of those bestowed cards. And then we had Planar Outburst in Battle from Zendikar, which was the same, destroy all non-land creatures. And then it had Awaken. But for this time,
you get a good upside.
You get
life back.
You get a good upside. I think this is the best upside in the 5-mana Wrath that we've seen the past 3 times. While the Planar Outburst is like a good late game card and it gives you a 4/4, and the Planar Outburst was conditionally good or not Planar Outburst, the End of Hostilities was conditionally good if there were bestow creatures. This card is just objectively good because not only does it wipe the board, but in case you're facing against a beatdown aggro deck, you'll gain 4 or 5 life back and help. This card kind of feels like a big fat white time walk, kind of.
I would say that's a good description of a wrath too.
Yeah.
I mean, you clear the board, you get each other balanced up, and go from there. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, you want to catch a lot of creatures and gain back 3-4 life off of this. Totally cool with that.
Yeah.
Totally cool with that.
Even if, I feel like even 1 life feels, I don't know.
3 life is, I think 3 life
3
is
life,
the goal.
yeah. 3 life is the bare minimum of what you want to be getting. But
real good.
But still, I would still be okay paying 5 mana to get rid of an Emrakul and gain 1 life. I'd be okay with that.
I'm sure you would.
So, did you want to talk about Chandra or Nissa first?
Let's save Chandra for last. Let's talk about Nissa.
All right, so go ahead and talk to us about Nissa.
All right, Nissa has 5 mana, beautiful art. It's green, green, and 3 to cast. The +1 on her. Oh, she starts with 5 loyalty counters. The +1 on her. Untap target land you control till the end of your next turn. It becomes a 5/5 elemental creature with haste, and it's still a land. Pretty badass. The -3 is return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, and -6, you get an emblem. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card.
Man, that is one hell of an ultimate.
It starts at 5, +1 to get a defender for herself on 5, to go to 6, and then the next turn you just get an emblem.
Yeah, landfall, draw a card.
That's ridiculous, man. Like, this is what you want to be doing on 5. You want to have, I don't know, the 4 mana, go get a land out of your deck, get you a 3/2, play this on 5 with something else untapped. Then you have a 5/5 that's also a land, so you'll have possibly a mana or 2 mana open depending on if you ramped into this thing. It's just, this card is bonkers, man. This card is absolutely bonkers for a green planeswalker.
And it's until your next turn, so you can just leave it as a 5/5, just in your way, don't attack me with your dorky 2/3 Sylvan Advocate, and then next turn I'm going to ultimate and I'm just going to start drawing a bunch of cards.
Yeah, you get so far ahead so fast. But I mean, admittedly, like the strategy against this card may be like, you animate a land. If you're doing this early against somebody, if they kill your land, you're at a bit of a disadvantage, and they can swing into your Nissa and knock it down a bit and keep you off doing anything really good. But I don't know, man. This thing just defends itself so well.
Yeah.
That +1 is bonkers, man. A 5/5, it's so good.
It is. It's just...
It's like a beatdown card if you want it to be. It can just dome him out for 5 on turn 5. Man, that is just so good.
This reminds me of the previous Nissa, not the 2 that we had seen previously, but the previous 5 mana Nissa, the Nissa Worldwaker.
Oh, yeah.
Which, if I'm remembering correctly, also had a +1, but it was make a 4/4, a land, a 4/4.
Yeah.
And also Koth of the Hammer.
Yes.
From Scars, which was 2 and double red for a planeswalker, and it started with 3 loyalty or 4 loyalty, and its +1 was untap target mountain. It's a 4/4 until end of turn, and it gains haste or something like that. Obviously, so this is the next in line.
But a 5/5 though, it makes a 5/5.
It's a 5. It makes a 5/5 at 5 mana. So, like, even in the most like the worst situation, you're still getting a 5/5 for 5 that baits out a removal spell, and they still have to kill your damage sponge. This card, I have a feeling between her and Chandra, I have a really tough time deciding which one is going to see more play. I have a feeling they're both going to see equal play. If not, if I were forced to choose, I would pick Nissa as probably going to be the most played planeswalker in Standard, at least until Aether Revolt and Amonkhet come out. This card, for its mana cost and it's -2. I forgot to talk about its minus. Like, returning a target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Like, it's not regrowth, but
no, that's a relevant ability though.
Still getting
back. You can get back another one of her for God's sake, or the guy that ramped you into her and comes back in and gets you another land, like that 3/2 that we saw earlier. Like, I feel if those two have a high probability of seeing play together, being good buddies.
Yeah, there was this mono green list that I had in mind. You want to be playing the 4 mana 3/2 Graveland Nissa, and your 3-drop you want to be playing Tireless Tracker. And I was thinking for your -3, because you're playing Tireless Tracker, usually you want to be playing Evolving Wilds with it to get your clue counters. So you Nissa minus if you have to get back Evolving Wilds and crack and get 2 more clues off of Tireless Tracker.
Oh man, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, there's a lot of synergies, like especially in the color green. Like, it's really hard to tell right now what's the strongest color in Standard. It's either green or white. I feel like if I had to choose, like, the first 2 would be, I think white is the most powerful color in Standard, then green, then black as 3rd, red as 4th, and blue as the weakest color in Standard right now. Just because blue is almost exclusively a support color. There is no mono blue list. There's a few blue green crush of tentacle lists, but yeah, I feel like green and white just keep getting all these amazing cards, and with Nissa Vital Force, I feel like this kind of puts it over the top because yeah, there's a really good mono green deck in mind because you'll be playing cards like Sylvan Advocate, Tireless Tracker, the 4-mana 3/2 get a land, Nissa Vital Force, the Gear Hulk that's a 8/8 for 5. Like, it's all there.
Yeah.
You have that green fight card as your removal for your big fat Tireless Tracker. You shoot something down and you swing with your
Or your big fat 5/5 that you just untapped off of this thing.
yeah. I want to build a mono green deck now.
Right now.
I'm gonna do it
Right now, let's go. Wait, no, let's talk about Chandra.
Yes, even better idea. So, Chandra, Torch of Defiance, or as people like to call it, the red Jace the Mind Sculptor. And for good reason.
Marquee card of the set.
Yeah, it's a 4-mana, 4 loyalty planeswalker with 4 abilities. So, 2 and double red for Planeswalker Chandra, 4 loyalty. +1, exile the top card of your library. You may cast that card. If you don't, Chandra, Torch of Defiance deals 2 damage to each opponent. Its other +1 is add double red to your mana pool. It's -3. Chandra, Torch of Defiance deals 4 damage to target creature, which is okay. And then -7, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell, this emblem deals 5 damage to target creature or player, aka I win. So, this card, I have a tough time telling whether or not this card is very good or if this card is actually insane.
I think very good. It would be the answer out of that.
Yeah, it's that second +1 effect. Add double red to your mana pool.
It's so pretty.
It's a rechargeable ritual effect. It's just, I feel like there's a lot of broken things that can happen with this. Now, it might have been 3 red beforehand. This certainly feels like it might have been a -1 add 3 double red or -2 add 3 double red. And then they decided to make it a plus effect and go down to 2 double red instead because there isn't that many cool splashy cards in Standard that interact well with 2 double red. I mean, you have cards like Tormenting Voice and the 1 in a red deals 3 damage to target creature or player. It's a sorcery speed. I can't remember what it's called. Incendiary Flow, that's what it's called. But if it was like a 3-mana one, there's like Collective Defiance and that new Tormenting Voice card, which is essentially Ancestral Recall. I think this card is fantastic. That other +1 ability where it's kind of like Chandra Pyromaster, where you're exiling the top card of your card and then you may cast it.
Except it actually does something.
Yeah, it even if you don't cast it, it's still a shock.
Every time people talk about the Chandra Pyromaster, like, plus it to get a card off the top of your library, I'm like, yeah, you get cards some of the time, but a lot of times it's just nothing. You just get nothing off of it.
Yeah, I
in
mean,
my experience, anyways. But this card, like bare minimum, you get a shock for free. That's awesome. I dig the flavor of that because you don't see a lot of things these days that give you just that extra, just dome them for 2 on top of things. That sort of, this just feels so pushed.
Right.
It feels like they had a good card and then they were like, let's make it do more.
Yeah.
Like, let's remove the ritual part to give it the shock part and have just more of a flavor win off of this card.
Yeah.
Can't wait. I can't wait to see this see play in Standard so people get a chance to like actually use it. This and the last Planeswalker, like Wizards did a good job of providing things that looked really, really fun and really big and will probably have a lot of payoff for people because I just cannot wait to play this card. Or the green Planeswalker. I really am pretty geeked out about it.
Yeah, I have to commend Wizards on making the flagship character of the set, Chandra. This is her home. She's returning to the place that she hasn't been to in years. And they also made her, like, this is hands down the best Chandra that's ever been made at this point. And it needed to be. If it was anything less, people would have probably lost faith in a really good Chandra. Because, I mean, we had Chandra Pyromaster, which was the 4-mana one, which we talked about earlier. And then the other kind of good one was the 6-drop that came out in Oath of Gatewatch that made 2 Spark Elementals.
Yeah. That's all play. That was a fun one.
Yeah, and yeah, those cards are good, but like when compared to other planeswalkers, no one ever really remembers Chandra as like, oh, a really good planeswalker as they would if they were thinking about Garruk or Jace or Liliana. But now with Chandra Torch of Defiance, we now have a card where we can put it alongside the other good planeswalkers in the respective colors, like Liliana of the Veil, because this is the red Liliana of the Veil, the red Jason Mind Sculptor, the red what's a great green planeswalker, Nissa Vital Force.
For me, Garruk Relentless.
Relentless.
That's my favorite. Or Wild Speaker.
I also like the Prime Speaker, the 6-drop, where you get to minus and draw a bunch of cards. But yeah,
I think if I was going to go for green Planeswalker, that was the best, the most flavorful, the most impactful. I'd go Garruk Wild Speaker on that one.
The original Lauren one.
Untapping 2 lands is pretty rad. He does a lot.
And his ultimate is... I think his ultimate was also 1 turn away because he starts at 3 and his ultimate is at 4, and his ultimate was Overrun, right?
Yeah, he's a dangerous dude.
Yeah.
Dangerous dude for sure. And so is she. So is Chandra, man. Mm-hmm. She could be super splashy, and that's what a planeswalker should be. It should have some panache,
right?
A little bit of showmanship.
Whenever you open the card, you want to be excited about it. You don't want to be like, oh, I mean, it's a planeswalker, it's cool, but no, it's like, sweet, I opened Chandra. I opened easily one of the best cards of the set.
You want to push up your glasses and go, this one's going into my binder in my collection.
No one's ever going to get this card. This is my favorite card ever.
Even if you make a card that even spikes do that, you're like, this one's going in the collection, then you know you've done your job. And this feels that kind of splashy.
Yeah.
It looks like there's going to be a lot of amazing cards in this set. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the EDH value of all this. I'm going to jam some stuff in decks. I want to make new, flavorful stuff. What about you, man?
Yeah, this whole Kaladesh set has got me really excited. I've been devoting a lot more of my time towards playing Magic Online, and whenever that eventually comes out on the Magic Online in a few weeks, I'm definitely going to be playing a lot of it because all these cards have got my creative juices flowing, essentially. Like, there's so many decks that you could just build out of block constructed just in Kaladesh, it feels like, where they would be good in Standard. Like, you could build 3-color energy decks, obviously getting some outside mana assistance from Shadows in Battle, but a lot of the good, sweet, synergistic decks seem self-contained within Kaladesh. So I think that's a good sign for the set coming in the future. Whenever Battle leaves and Shadow leaves, Kaladesh stands on its own. And that's what a good set should do. It shouldn't have to rely on what was in the set previously or what was in the set in front of it. It should complement the other sets, but be really good on its own. And I feel like Kaladesh does that perfectly.
All right. Well, next time I say we talk about some awesome decks. How's that sound?
Yeah, definitely down for that.
Okay. Kaladesh constructed. Where will it go into current Standard, and how can we build on it next time?
All right, so we're going to go ahead and sign off. So, McBee, thank you for joining me.
Of course. Good to see you face to face, man.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we can do this more in the future, and we can get some lighting and, I don't know, maybe some video set up.
How about some comfortable chairs?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. I'm sick of sitting in these wooden chairs for an hour long.
My ass may or may not be asleep. More on it next time.
Well... Does the pimples on your ass come from the wooden chair? Find out tonight at 11. All right. You guys all have a good night, and we'll catch you next time.